starting the section on joy. Shar HaSimcha, very important attribute, joy it is. It's the basis for most of what most people do. Everybody's looking for satisfaction, everybody's looking for joy, everybody's looking for pleasure. The question is, right, what type of pleasure, what type of joy, what type of satisfaction are you looking for? Clearly, the Torah recognizes the value of joy as being a motivating factor for the things that we do regarding prayer, regarding study, regarding mitzvahs that we do, because God was happy in creating us, and God wants us to be happy, thank you, with creation, and God also wants us to be happy with the things that we do which play our part in maintaining the creation. So therefore joy is a foundation for all the things that we do in life in general, and certainly that's the case regarding Torah. Joy, happiness, is not necessarily measured by smiling, right, ear to ear. A lot of times people plaster smiles across their face, and that is no indication whatsoever they're being really happy. In fact, very often, people who smile all the time are usually masking some type of pain or disquietude inside. What we're talking about with happiness and joy is talking about a serene, internal, kind of pleasant and harmonious feeling of joy and satisfaction. That's what we're talking about. Of course, there's room for Judaism for joy and laughing and smiling. And in weddings, you see people have, great, antics of laughing and joying and somersaults and everything like that. There's certainly a point of that, but you can't be on that type of a high all of the time. The main thing is to avoid the lows. And unfortunately, modern society, modern man goes so much of the ups and the downs, erratic extremes from one to the other, living bipolar lifestyles. People are unhappy, dissatisfied with the competition and with the cutthroat type of social attitudes that people have. On the other hand, in order to get something out of life, people start injecting themselves with all types of experiences to help bolster their joy and their happiness. So they go up. I don't mean necessarily injecting. I mean, looking for things to satisfy them. Usually those are fleeting, short things. So a person is like in ecstasy for a short period of time. Life is ecstatic. And then, boom, they hit that low again. Hit that low again. So now they got to get out of the low, so they have to do something to initiate that ecstatic state again, whether it be whatever it may be, right? The Torah is about providing a person with a lifestyle that's going to give him a constant, healthy, and happy high. Right? Not too high, unless it's necessary for the particular circumstance, but to avoid the lows. Of course, everybody has subject to lows. So the Torah had different teachings on navigating the lows and minimizing the types of depressing types of things and thoughts and feelings that a person can have. But the best remedy is to live a lifestyle that is not conducive to that type of sorrow in the first place. So that's one of the things that the Torah is doing. It's giving us a pathway towards achieving happiness. That's kind of the background for this chapter in Orchot Tzaddikim on happiness. Okay? So we're on Shar HaTshi'i. That's the 9th chapter, Shar HaSimcha. The gateway to happiness, the gate of happiness. HaSimcha. Hamida zos, bo la'adam mechmas rov shalva b'libo bli pegara. This happiness, the type of happiness that we're talking about, comes to a person through having serenity of heart. How many people can really say they are serene of heart? Very few people. Everybody's always got a complaint about not having enough money or not having enough material comforts or not having enough friends or not getting enough satisfaction out of his or her relationships. So such a person can't be said to be happy. True happiness is somebody who has a serene happiness in his heart. Serene happiness in his heart. Hezu ashir asamech bechelko. Pirkei Avos says, who is wealthy? Somebody who is happy with his portion. Somebody who's happy with his portion. He's truly wealthy. Why? You can have the most wealthy person in the world, but he's constantly jealous of his money, always suspicious, looking over his shoulder. Who's trying to get him and get at him? For what and for how much? He's constantly worrying about how not only to increase his wealth, but just to preserve it. In addition to that, he can't really rely on most of the people that he knows for any genuine companionship, because most people that attach themselves to him are attaching themselves to him for his money. So he's constantly concerned about forces and people from without, suspicious of forces and people from within. And what kind of a happiness is that? What kind of happiness? They tell a story about a very wealthy man who boasted, that he was so wealthy, he might die of a lot of things, but he'd never die of hunger. Never die of hunger. And then one day, he was walking around in his vaulted chambers full of the wealth that he had stored there, and lo and behold, somehow the vault door closed on him. There's no way he could open it from inside. From outside, nobody knew he was there. Day after day, until he starved to death. All of that wealth, all of that money, all of those jewels, all of those coins, everything that was stored in there couldn't do a single thing to keep him alive. Yeah? So no matter how much wealth a person has, there's no ingredient that's going to give a person life, let alone a good life. And therefore, who is truly happy is somebody who's satisfied with his portion. Somebody who's happy with what he's got. They tell the story about a certain person. He came to the Baal Shem Tov, and he asks the Baal Shem Tov, I don't understand, he says, I don't understand how a person can have a difficult time in life and still be happy and be satisfied. A person should be poor, a person should be deprived of the basic needs for life and still be happy. How is that possible? So the Baal Shem Tov said to him, to tell you the truth, I really don't have a good answer for you. I suggest you go speak to, I believe it was Rabbi Elimelech. I think it was Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhinsk. I think it was. In any case, he goes to this other rabbi, and he comes to the house, and he sees the broken down house. It's dilapidated. The doors are falling off the hinges. The window panes are all broken. It was a wintry day, and it started raining. He knocks on the door. The door nearly fell off the hinges. He's brought inside, and the rain is raining in the roof, and he sees the person sitting at a table with a few morsels of food. And he says, I was sent here by the Baal Shem Tov to ask you a question. So he said, go ahead, ask. He asked, I don't understand. How is it a person can be samech b'chelko? How is it a person can be happy with his portion even if he's got no portion? So this other rabbi looks around and he looks back at this person. He says, for the life of me, I can't understand why the Baal Shem Tov sent you to me. I have everything I need. So you see, he was so happy with his portion, he wasn't even aware of the poverty, he wasn't aware of suffering from that situation. And that was the answer to this person's question. If you're happy with what you've got, you're happy. If you're not happy, it doesn't matter how much you got, you're not going to be happy. And therefore, this is a very key ingredient. A person should be relaxed and calm and serene and understand that everything that he has comes from God. It's true, if he wants more, he can do something to acquire it. He can make some effort to acquire it, but you can't make yourself meshuggah over it either. Normal, regular, shtadlus, regular type of effort, and put your prayers in Hashem, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be happy with what you've got right now. Even if I would like to change my situation, and I try and affect that change, ultimately it's in God's hands whether that change will be realized or not. But until it's changed, or even if it isn't, what I have to do is be happy and satisfied with my lot. We say this specifically regarding material things, by the way. The Ben Ish Chai, the great Sephardi commentator of several generations ago, said a beautiful analogy. He said, in life, a person should view himself on a ladder. Ladder. Life is like a ladder, he says. Regarding things of a material nature, you should always be looking down. Whatever I have, there's always people going to have much less than I am. So I have to be certainly happy with what I have. Right? Mistapek bechelko. Right? But regarding spiritual matters, there a person has to look up. Never be satisfied with what you've got. Spiritual matters, don't be happy with what you've got. You should always want more. And therefore look upward and see what people above you have and aspire to attain that. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be happy with the Torah that you have. Baruch Hashem, we're happy with the Torah that we have. Every person is happy with the Torah that he or she has learned. Yeah, but we should still there at least aspire for more. Never feel like a mistapik b'muat. a teaching that says a person should be satisfied to do with little. That's regarding material things. Regarding material things, you should be happy to get by with a little. Spiritual things, the sky's the limit. So he says here, therefore, then happiness, in the Torah perspective, is not this overflowing, effervescent, bubbling type of, laughing all the time joy. Happiness. That's not the point. There's a room for a laugh and a joke in Torah. That's certainly true. But happiness, true happiness, is that serene feeling of fulfillment inside. A person who has his desires fulfilled and nothing unfortunate or sad happens to him, this will certainly make him happy all the time. This will cause his face to be illuminated, happy. And his kind of countenance is illuminescent. His body is going to be healthy. And old age will not quickly happen to such a person. A person who's in a state of joy, either because his needs are fulfilled, or as far as he's concerned, everything he needs is really fulfilled. Yeah? So such a person will be not only have peace of mind, but he'll also have a pleasant and illuminate countenance. He's going to have a healthy attitude in life, which is ultimately going to make his body healthy as well. A person who's upset and depressed is heavy. And a person's heavy, so his physiological systems are also heavy. And his digestion is heavy. And he doesn't digest his food properly. And all the energy that should otherwise go into alacrity and speed and light and swiftness and flexibility, all of that becomes sedate and fixed. So the person becomes heavy, and over time, that kind of mental, emotional weight takes its toll on a person. It really makes a person not only mentally and emotionally, but even physically unhealthy. But a person who's generally happy and healthy, has this type of serene sense of fulfillment, he's going to be able to go through life with much more energy, and he's also going to have much more longevity. Yeah? So it's not coincidental that you see great Torah scholars who've committed their entire lives to learning Torah, live to the ripe old age of 100 and so years old. Why? Because not only do they physically live a happy lifestyle, but they're content with Torah. Their energy is coming more from spiritual than physical, which has much more longevity than physical things anyway, and it propels the person through life. Of course, there are rabbis who had shorter lives. We find the opposite also true. Sometimes very great rabbis died around the age of 40, 38, 39, 40. The Arizal, for example, Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, when you say Ramchal? Yes, the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. Yeah? So that's a separate phenomenon. That has to do with the fact that when a person fulfills his tikkun in life, the reason why he was created, purpose for having been created, he fulfills that purpose, he realizes that potential, so there's no point in being in this world any longer. On the contrary, for the soul to be here longer than necessary, that causes unnecessary suffering for the soul. Once a person's done what he needs to do in order to perfect whatever needs to be perfected for his soul, that soul is ready to be liberated and elevated into the next realm. And keeping the soul in this world would be a form of imprisoning that soul in this realm more than is necessary. So it's interesting, we do find that very often great tzaddikim, very righteous people, expired at this relatively young age. By the way, Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan in modern times also is an example of somebody who attained a great degree of Torah knowledge through all of different areas of Torah. Gemara, Mishnah, Gemara, and Midrash, and Zohar, and Kabbalah, and Hasidus, and everything, Halacha. He also expired at that age. But in any case, generally speaking, a person who lives this lifestyle of peace and quiet and serenity is going to have a longer, more healthy life as well. Vein zikno mimeres lavo alav. Kamo shenemar, as it says, lev samech yetiv geha. Lev samech, a happy heart, will benefit and elevate a person. And that's really true. A person who's kind of elevated, a person who's happy, feels himself much more, like I said, lighter. A person who's depressed and upset, you find that it weighs them down. But a person who's happy is effervescent, is lively, is energetic, and that's clearly going to be a much more healthy state for a person. And through joy, there will also come laughter to a person. Vein roi leish maskil laharbois b'tzchok. On the other hand, it's not advisable for an enlightened, intelligent person to be laughing all the time. You have people who constantly a good joke is nice from time to time, but a person who's just a joke after joke after joke, and it's all just a joke and a laugh, another opportunity to crack a joke and get another laugh, right? Even if it's in the context of Torah, arguably that's really not what it's all about. A person, the Gemara says, is supposed to open up a Torah lecture with some joke in order to warm up people's hearts and get them kind of in tune with what's being taught, but at some point you've got to get around to learning. And sometimes, even rabbinic personalities will have a Torah lecture be more like a stand-up comedian than an actual Torah lecture. And obviously they're doing that for a reason. It's probably appropriate for that particular scenario, that particular audience, or whatever. But in general, a person has to be happy, and happiness brings laughter, but you can't take laughter too far either. Ki matzchok mishtatefes das kola, because with laughter, with frivolity, you have mixed in like lightness of heart. As it says, Ki kol hasirim tachas asir ken schok aksil. Like the laughter of, I guess, like coals underneath, like the laughter of coals underneath a pot, so is the laughter of the foolish person. All of his laughter and all of his jokes is all about fanning the fuels of frivolity. And that's clearly not the purpose here. Ukfar Nemar, and furthermore it said, Me'oisois hashote shesoichek bimkom she'ein re'ui bo hatzchok. One of the indications of an idiot, of a fool, is a person who laughs when it's not appropriate to laugh. Sometimes you have that. Like somebody will say something, all of a sudden it's like, that was really stupid. That was very inappropriate. The person thought he was telling a good joke, right? It's a sign. A person tells a joke when it's inappropriate, thinking he's going to engender laughter, even if he doesn't engender laughter, but at that time it's inappropriate. So that's a sign of foolishness. So clearly the joy and the happiness that we're talking about has to be tempered. It's not talking about any type of joy, an expression of happiness at all times. Rather, this type of pure, pristine, spiritual type of glow. That's the type of joy that we're talking about. Vein ra'ui l'mi sheyesh lo musar lisnaheg b'tzchok b'moshavos u'b'ma'amodos mipnei she'amru, and it's not befitting for somebody who acts according to decorum, to proper ethics, to be sitting around just wasting his time with people who are telling jokes all the time and laughing. Misha rav sechoko, somebody who's laughing too much, mismayet moro. He actually he reduces the fear of heaven from him. He kind of diminishes his fear of heaven. So you can have a person who's God-fearing, but he spends too much time telling jokes. So slowly but surely, he's going to make he's likely to become a scoffer. Likely to become a scoffer. Ki b'shas tzchok ein yachol lachshov shum yiras shamayim shalav. When he's laughing, again, we're talking about just telling like stupid, nonsensical jokes, even if they're funny. But a person who's like laughing all of this, he's not thinking about Yiras Shamayim. Think about, you get yourself laughing, and you can't stop. You're laughing. You can't stop. Your stomach starts hurting, right? Your muscles are cramped because you're laughing. You can't stop. That's obviously not healthy laughter, right? It's uncontrollable. You've lost control. Basically, they have groups now where you meet, and the purpose of the group is just to start laughing. Somebody starts laughing, right? And then he laughs, and then he laughs, and he laughs. Before you know it, the whole room is like roaring with laughter. And this is supposed to be therapeutic. It could be. Maybe it is therapeutic. Maybe you do have to like let off some tension and let off some steam. And laughter is probably a good way to do that. Exercising is also a good way of doing it. Listening to music is a good way of doing it. Yeah. But the point is, right, even if you do one of these laughter seminars, and even if from time to time, like you enjoy a good joke, you want to sit around and have a good time, that's fine. But when it's delineated, right? Everything in good measure. When I tell a good joke, you want to hang out with the guys and have a beer and tell some jokes and have a good time. As long as it doesn't become like inappropriate and rude and crude, right, that's okay. But not all of the time. You have to. Most of the time, a person has to be serious and take his studies seriously. Ki b'shas tzchok ein yachol lachshov shum yirat shamayim alav. Lechen yiyaser adam es atzmo shelo yischok v'shelo yiknei lo rav o chover misachek. And therefore, a person has to work very hard also to acquire friends who are not like uncontrollable laughers. Yeah? And he says it's not only regarding a friend, but regarding a rabbi. It's interesting, I said that before. I was a bit reluctant to say that. But here you see the author himself says that a person who's looking for a friend or looking for a rabbi should find a friend or a rabbi who's not like overly emphasizing, laughing and joking all the time. That's not the true path. Shenemar, lo yashafti besoid misachakim ve'elos. The prophet Jeremiah said, I did not sit among the scoffers and laugh and be jovial and have fun with all of them. Ksiv, and Ksiv, it's written furthermore, B'chol etzev hiyeh moisar. B'chol etzev hiyeh mosar. A person should actually rather be a little more on the serious side than on the lighthearted side. Yeah, a little more serious than an airhead. Page Samach Zayin, the second paragraph. Harbe ra'os yesh b'simcha b'schok. Remember, the whole pattern of the book, he brings a whole series of attributes, and they're usually brought in pairs. Each one of a pair is either generally negative or generally positive. Even if it's generally negative or generally positive, it still has some of the other characters. So, for example, happiness will have a lot of good qualities, but there are going to be some attributes of happiness which could be potentially negative, a person has to be concerned about. So, like with all the other attributes, here he's expressing some of the negative sides of happiness that you have to be aware of. And he says, Harbe ro'os yesh b'simcha tzchok. There are a lot of potential bad which can come out of this overly expressed or inappropriate form of joy and laughter. K'mo sameach b'michshol chavero b'shemir begi'a lo pega ra. For example, if something happens to somebody else, something bad happens to somebody else, very often a person, you have to admit it, can be happy about that. Even if you don't laugh and make a joke out of it, but you might be happy in your heart that person trips up. You might be happy in your heart that person trips up. Let's say you have a shir full of people, and one guy among all the others seems to be more advanced. Not that he's haughty or arrogant about it, but the fact of the matter is that he's able to answer most questions, right, most quickly. So it's natural that most people in the shir are going to feel a certain degree of jealousy, right? It's natural. One time, he answers a question and he's totally off. And the rabbi, maybe because he's so used to this guy being on the ball, on the mark, is really upset. How could he say such a thing? And his response might also be perhaps inappropriate, but he might without thinking about it, say something. So now this guy answered wrong and he gets clobbered over the head by the rabbi for doing so. How many people in the room are probably likely feeling, he deserves it. He doesn't really deserve it. It's not like he was arrogant, right? Or holding himself over others because of his ability to answer properly. But just time after time, he understood and he answered properly. Other people are going to feel, very often, other people are going to be happy in their hearts for the fact that this guy slipped up. That's wrong. But everybody got a chuckle out of it. It's just good old fun, right? No, because it was obviously the motivation is bad. It would be different, of course, if this guy was arrogant and he was constantly trying to put other people down and he was always trying to race to be the first and race to be the best, and he was doing so with a negative competitive fashion. So that would be a different story, yeah? But plenty of times, and this is just one scenario that we're likely to experience and encounter here in the yeshiva, but all the time, it happens all the time. People slip up, people mess up, top types of situation. A person will laugh or chuckle or at least kind of be happy in his heart that this guy tripped and fell on his face. Yeah? That's obviously wrong. Regarding this it says, al tismach. In the downfall of your enemy, don't rejoice. Don't rejoice. Even when it's your enemy and he falls, you're not supposed to rejoice. All the more so when it's not somebody who's your enemy, your fellow Jew, but he does something, let's say, awkward or something like that, and all of a sudden becomes a laughing stock. It's wrong to do that. You have to control your laughter. The poor guy was going to the lunchroom, he got some lunch, and he slipped and he fell, and now he's all on the floor, and his food is on top of him, underneath him, and everything else. So people start laughing. That's horrible. Poor guy. Right? The poor guy. Of course it's funny on a certain level, but you have to be able to control yourself. That's wrong. You have 10 people standing over him, laughing, yeah? And none of them will kind of bend down and help pick him up. Right? Because it's funny. But we have to stop laughing and start thinking about what you can do to help rectify the situation. You have a type of joy which is even worse than this. כמו השמח כשחברו נכשל בעבודת הבורא יתברך, או שמח במיעוט ידיעתו. For example, not if a person just messes up in general regarding mundane things, but if he messes up regarding spiritual things. Yeah? He puts on tefillin, and he puts it on the wrong arm, or he puts it on backwards, or whatever. And so somebody made some snide, nasty remark about how little this guy knows. Like, what kind of business is that? He's trying to serve Hashem. He's trying to fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin. So he messes up. So that's a reason to cut into the guy and embarrass him or make snide remarks. And more often than that, when we do that, it's because we ourselves feel insecure and we found an opportunity to be a rabbi. All of a sudden, right, I can be a rabbi. Why? Because I, 2 months in, know more than this beginner. What kind of business is that? So you see, you're actually trying to laugh and gain some type of pleasure and elevate yourself by pointing out somebody else's faults. That's obviously evil. That's obviously wrong. That's not the type of laughter we're talking about. By the way, there's a pasuk in Shir Shirim which says, Dilugo alai ahava. Diglo alai ahava. The Jewish people talk about God, Shir Shirim, Song of Songs, is portrayed as like a love song between a man and a woman. It's allegorically representative of the relationship between the Jewish people and Hashem. And therefore, it's this type of a love song, this profession of love between God and the Jewish people, and the Jewish people and God. So the Jewish people say about God, V'diglo alai ahava, that God's degel, which is like a flag or a banner, it's a banner which I hold up lovingly, with love. V'diglo alai ahava, I uphold His banner lovingly. That's what God says, that's what the Jewish people say about God. The Gemara says that the same verse is recited by God about the Jewish people differently. God doesn't say, Diglo alai ava, but rather, when God is talking about the Jewish people, He says, V'dilugo alai ava. Not diglo, but dilugo, a reversing of the words. What's the difference? Degel is the banner. That's what we hold up for Hashem. What does Hashem hold up for us? Our dilug. What is a dilug? When a person messes up. When a person is serving Hashem, he's davening, he's doing a mitzvah, but he slurs the words, or he leaves out the words, or he doesn't pronounce them properly, or he does a mitzvah, but he doesn't do it properly. His heart's in the right place, but he fumbles through it. So God says, regarding that, Dilugo alai ava. I love that. I love that, God says. How cute. That's adorable. It's like when a kid starts talking, and he reverses the words, right? And he says, I don't know, instead of ice cream, he says kaisream, or whatever, something like that. And he's like, oh, that's so cute. Is it to say that again? Now, if a 20-year-old did that, you're like, this guy's got a problem, right? But when it's a baby, you're like, do it again. Do it again. You want to prompt the kid to do it. That's how God sees our messing up. Adore that, because we're like His kids, we're like His children, we're like His babies. And when Hashem sees us, no matter how educated, no matter how experienced, but when we mess up, so that's like beloved in God's eyes. That's beautiful. Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. And therefore, God sees this beginner putting on tefillin, but he puts it on the wrong arm, or he puts it on backwards. And we're laughing at him. What a fool. What a novice. What a green. Yeah? And God is laughing endearingly. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's one. Did you see what my son just did? He put on his tefillin backwards. That's so cute. Ah, do it again. He loves that. Yeah? If it's sincere, from your heart. So we should laugh at somebody who's doing something which is so endearing in Hashem's eyes. And therefore, very careful not to laugh or to scoff about people who are doing things wrong. That's certainly in the mundane plane, and all the more so if it's talking about things having to do with the Avodas Hashem. Mashal, he gives an example. I gave an example or two. Let's see, the author gives an example. Tzarech shetovin. For example, you should know, Eved mishares lemelech be'emunah. If you have a scenario where a servant is serving his master faithfully, yesh lo litztaer b'roso anoshim hamordim ba'adonoi ve'amecharfim oso. This servant who serves his master faithfully will actually feel pain and anguish over seeing other people disrespect, or other servants, for example, rebel against the master. Umechuyev lo chicham. He would be required to rebuke them. Hapanim, in their face, lodiam nevusam, to tell them, this is a horrible thing. If your master supports you, he clothes you, he feeds you, he gives you shelter, and behind his back, you speak about him that way? I mean, it's one thing if you're talking about a master who's mean and evil and cruel, yeah? Or sometimes employees do this all the time with their employer. In the employee's room, they have a coffee and a cigarette or something and talk about the employer, the owner. You could work somewhere else if you want. Why are you working here and taking his money? If he's a jerk, that's one thing. But usually that's not the case. They're just resentful of the fact that he owns the business and I have to work for him. Open your own business. You have a complaint? Open your own business. Why don't you open your own business? Because you can't for X, Y, or Z reasons. So you're beholden to him. He's employed you. He's a decent guy. So why do you speak bad about him? Right? That's our natural tendency. We do that. Have to avoid that. So a person who's a truthful servant, a truthful, dedicated servant of this master will rebuke the others and say, shut up, don't talk that way. V'enze nevman. This is not an Eved Ne'eman, somebody who would speak this way. Rak chover the ish mashchis. Rather, he's like a friend of the destroyer. V'avono yisa, his transgression he will hold. V'hine, akosuv omer, the verse says, Rotze Hashem es yirav. God wants, he desires those who fear him, those who are in awe of him. Umisha sameach b'michshol chaveroi. Somebody who is happy over the spiritual slip-up of his friend, so that's a sign that he's really not interested in the service of the king. If you really loved Hashem, right? If you really were dedicated to Hashem, you would not be happy about somebody's accidental mess up, certainly all the intentional mess up. God forbid. Somebody, you got some vendetta or some negative feeling about somebody else, and he ends up doing some transgression, let's say intentionally, you find out about it. So you might be happy in your heart. Should you be happy in your heart? He thought he was such a tzaddik, now look at him. Even if the guy was not the best guy in the world, and even if, like I said, not like I was saying before, even if he was arrogant and he held himself above others, in the end of the day you found out like he transgressed Shabbos or something. So you should be happy about that? In the end of the day, whose Shabbos did he desecrate? Hashem's. And we're all fans of Hashem, right? So we should be happy the fact that somebody else kind of went over to the other team, even if it was only temporarily? No. So clearly that's the wrong thing to do. The opposite also true. When you see somebody doing something good, they strengthen themselves all of a sudden to put on tzitzis or tefillin, or to learn a bit more, or like that classroom scenario that we talked about. The guy gets the right answer. It was like on the tip of your tongue, and you're just going to say it. And he says first. And the rabbi's like, oh, wow, great, excellent. How did you do that? And you're like, I could have gotten that compliment. It was right on the tip of my tongue. I could have said it first. What kind of business is that? Should be happy for him that he was mechaben for the emes. Be happy for him that he understood the Torah and he got the right answer. It's important, right? The rabbi or other people have to know that you also have the right answer. Is it enough that you know that you had the right answer and that you know that Hashem knows that you had the right answer? You're upset that somebody else got the right answer and also got the credit for it? What kind of business is that? If we really love Hashem and we really love the Torah, I'd be more than happy that somebody got the right answer. It doesn't have to be me. The main thing is, Baruch Hashem, we got the right answer. Right? That's an indication that person is a real fan of Hashem. It's a group effort. Doesn't matter whether it's me or whether it's somebody else. The main thing is, as a team, right, we got it, because one of us got it. Rotze Hashem es yirav. Umisha sameach b'michshol chavero ein rotzono kirotzono bo yisborach. Alken, he's palel Rabbi Nechunia, and therefore Rabbi Nechunia prayed, Rabbi Nechunia ben Akana, Al yikoshlu chaverai b'davar halacha v'esmach behem. Let there not be a scenario where my friends mess up. When they mess up in some dvar halacha, and I should be happy with them. There are different ways of explaining. This is a prayer that we say before learning Torah in the day. And it's printed usually in the front page of most of the Gemaras. It's a very beautiful prayer and it's nice to say. And this is one of the phrases that's in the prayer. Shelo yikashlu haverai b'dvar halacha v'esmach behem. That my friends should not mess up with their Torah learning and I should be happy with them. There are different ways of learning this. One of the ways is, I pray that my friends, meaning my fellow students, should not mistake their learning and that I should be happy with them. But another explanation is that my friends should not mess up in their learning and that I should be happy with that, with the fact that they made that mistake. So I'm making a prayer, asking Hashem to protect me from this very common scenario where a person says the wrong thing, and I'm happy that he messed up. Why? Because if I'm happy that he messed up, in the words of Torah, that's a sign that I don't really love the Torah and I don't really love Hashem. And furthermore, I should not mess up, and they should not be happy with my mess up. And therefore the rabbi prayed for this. He saw that this is a very common thing. That one person can be happy with a mistake of his friend, so that he should vanquish his friend and he should get the reputation. And even very chashuv people who are well respected and Torah learners can also become prey to this type of a thing. It's like you have two havrusas, right? And they're arguing back and forth, and finally the one guy proves that the other one made a mistake. And now he's like, inside he's really happy. Why? Because he was right. That's obviously the wrong attitude. First of all, I have an argument with my Havrusa. I see it one way, he says another way. The first thing I should do is, rather than explain and demonstrate why my way is right, let me try and ask him and figure out why he thinks and perhaps his way is right. I have to be first? Let's hear what he has to say first. Wait, that's an interesting idea. I didn't think about it that way. I saw it, truly, I saw it totally opposite. But it's intriguing. Let's hear it. How do you get that? Where does it come from? What's the wording? And when you ask for him to explain it, your attitude should not be one of challenging him. You're wrong, prove you're right, but rather, that's interesting. Let's see why that's right. Right? Because he might be saying something true. He might be saying something true. You've worked through it together, and it turns out that what he's saying doesn't really seem to work for X, Y, or Z reasons. So you say, you know what? I hear that. It doesn't work for me for X, Y, or Z reasons. I'll tell you what I think. It seems to me it's the other way, X, Y, Z. All right, great. Open up Rashi. Rashi says like you. Great. Rashi says like me. But at least I heard his way of thinking. And I'm happy to have explored it the way he saw it. And there are different facets to the Torah. As long as you're learning Rashi, it turns out that you are right. But if you learn Tosfos, you'll find out that your friend was right. And he might not have been able to explain the reasons why A, B, and C, but Tosfos does. And you see, therefore, you were right, and he was right. You were arguing a machlokas between Rashi and Tosfos. Great, so you're Rashi and he's Tosfos, or you're Tosfos and he's Rashi. The main thing is that you're learning together, you're respecting each other and loving the same Torah together, rather than becoming a shouting match over who's right and who's wrong. And if you see a Havrusa getting into a shouting match, and things get a little bit off the hook, right, that might be an indication that the learning is not entirely L'Shem Shamayim. I'm not saying that a person shouldn't learn with enthusiasm, with passion, yeah? But if it starts to be like shouting, so the best way to ensure that you're not going to hear another person is to shout. Because if you shout, then you can drown him out. Right? Why? If you shout, then you don't have to listen to him. The opposite also true. The best way to make sure that a guy's not going to listen to you is to shout. Shout at him really loud, guarantee he's not going to hear you. Not going to hear a word you say, because you're shouting. But if you're really looking for the emes, the truth of Torah, so you're going to realize it really doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong. It's as a havrusa we find the emes together. And therefore, I'm happy if he got the pshat. Now I have a closer degree of emes. So he says, "V'av kama b'nei adam chashuvim einam nizar mizeh." And even people who are more advanced in Torah and Torah learning, they're not careful with this, and they get all gaivadik about their Torah, and they get upset when somebody else gets the right answer and they don't, or they're happy when the other guy gets it wrong. How can that be? How can it possibly be? L'chen kol ish asher retzono rotzoin elokim. Therefore, anybody whose will is harmonious with the will of Hashem, yitztayar al she'ein naaseh rotzoin Hashem. He should be upset in any scenario where the will of Hashem is not being done, and not be happy that this guy slipped up. V'afilu al sonov yispalel adam sheyavod boris barach. And even on the people that he doesn't like, he should pray that they serve Hashem. He's not talking here about a religious person as opposed to a non-religious person. He's talking about two religious people who are arguing. They're neighbors and they're arguing over something having to do with their property or whatever, who knows what. But even if they're arguing, and if they have a different opinion, and even if they go to Beis Din, and even if one guy loses, right, they should still be praying for the spiritual well-being of each other. I can pray that Hashem enables me to open my mouth and present my case properly so that I win the Beis Din and get my money back or something like that. But that doesn't mean that I should want for anything bad for that other person. Chas v'shalom. Certainly that I should consider him to be a rasha or want him to slip up in his avodas Hashem because of that. Yichavin b'tfiloso b'birkas ata choinen, and therefore when he makes the bracha ata choinen l'adam das, u'birkas hashivenu, the bracha of asking Hashem to help us do tshuva, u'birkas slach lanu, the bracha having to do with Hashem, asking Hashem to forgive us, al kol Yisrael. It should be for all of Klal Yisrael, and that's why the Amida is B'lashon Rabim, in the plural, because you're praying for all of Klal Yisrael. Oyavav v'soinav, whether they're people I love or whether they're people I don't get along with. L'chen v'kol ha-brochos, the same thing with all of the brochos. Ki ein yitochen sheyispalel roife choylei am Yisrael, praying to Hashem that he should cure all of the sick of Israel, and he should be thinking, well, meaning not all of the sick, only the ones that I get along with. But the ones that I don't get along with, I don't want you to cure. Has v'shalom. Ushar brachos v'lo chofetz chaver yisrape o yischakem. It's unthinkable that he wouldn't want somebody else to get well if he's sick, or to become wise in Torah if he's not so. And since this yetzer is very common in the hearts of people, and it's so subtle that we don't even feel it, therefore I've written here in order to prepare those who truly serve Hashem, to want to serve Hashem, to be sensitive to this. B'chavana shalema amitis, to have a proper and full kavana. Lishbach nafsham noichach pnei Hashem, to pour out their souls in front of Hashem. Al kol Israel, for the benefit of all Israel. Oyavav v'sonav, those he loves and even the ones he doesn't get along with so well. Ubezeh yikayem, and in this way fulfill the mitzvah, ve'afto l'reacha kamoicha. You shall love your fellow Jew, or even your fellow man, kamocha, as yourself. I just had an idea based on some of the things that he's saying here. It says, V'afta l're'echa kamocha, love your friend as you love yourself. But re'ah is also spelled like the word ra. So you should love your friend even if this friend is like an enemy, and so you don't like him so much. Still, V'afta l're'echa kamocha. Love him as yourself. And if you were sick, you pray for yourself. So if he's sick, pray for him. If you didn't understand Torah very much, you would pray for Hashem to help you understand more and become more righteous. So pray for this person that you don't get along with, that he should also be able to learn the Torah and become more righteous. You can't go wrong by praying that he become better. And therefore, there's no reason to be selective about this type of thing. V'afta l're'echa kamocha. There's another pshat here. V'afta l're'echa kamocha. If ra is also evil, that's like the yetzer hara. V'afta l're'echa kamocha. You should love your yetzer hara as yourself. Meaning, don't view your yetzer hara always as something separate from yourself. View your yetzer hara as a friend that you can actually use and harness and cultivate for your well-being. And that's certainly the truth, that a lot of the drives that we have that we usually identify as the yetzer hara, these are not evil drives, they're drives. The question is, how do you direct them? V'afta l're'echa kamocha. You should love these drives that were implanted in you by Hashem, because if you use them properly, they can actually be befriended by you and used and harnessed by you for your good. Kamocha. Utor yadayim Yosef oimetz. And he concludes this paragraph by saying, a person who is truly pure of hands, so such a person will not have fear. He will increase his courage. And therefore, if a person has true and pure intentions in his heart to do Hashem's will, and that the glory of Hashem should be increased, he will not be afraid, and he'll take courage. That everybody should be able to take part in this project that we're doing together, which is L'gadel v'l'kadesh Shem Shamayim Barabim. Amen.